Let's go on with our video class. We are now going to deal with Pollo alla cacciatora, which is cacciatora chicken. We'll try to see how to make chicken bites cooked in a casserole in general. So you can change the ingredients and make different types of it. The first thing, important thing, is that we're going to use the thigh and upper thigh part of the chicken and the wing to make this type of dish. It's not advisable to use the breast because it is a cut that for such a long cooking, even though we're working with a lot of humidity, it might be very stiff. So the meats with the bone are a lot softer. Don't remove the skin, not because it's wrong, but during the cooking phase, the skin is a good protection vehicle on the meat from the heat. And we're going to start first with the searing of the meat. So we're turning on the heat on low. We're going to put a little bit of oil, not too much, because the part of the skin already releases some fat. And we're going to sear the meat. What this means is, since we have to cook it for a long time, in the moment in which we are sealing the meat, we can close the external part on the surface. We can close the external structures, limiting the liquid loss. Limiting, we're not eliminating the loss of liquids. It would be impossible in such a direct cooking. So we're just slightly searing, and that we're going to go on with the aromatic part. This is what I advise every time you have to braise or cook meat with a lot of humidity for a long time. Never stir the meat right away. We're going to raise the heat a little bit. The meat, of course, is cold, fridge cold, so it made the temperature of the casserole fall down, and so I risk that I'm going to boil and not sear. So wait for the searing on the meat that's in contact with the casserole, because if you touch it right away, it might break. It takes around 1 minute. Or you can just test very slowly, moving the meat. You can see it tends to attach. It means that it still hasn't seared. I'm also going to understand it when from the base part, the meat from the base up is starting to whiten. That's an index that makes me understand that I'm almost there. Testing again. See? This part is already done. It's moving. Always very gently. Move the meat every now and then. We're going to sear for around 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, not more. It depends on how much you want the chicken to be robust. Remember that the brown, more or less intense crust we are making through this process is going to improve the final flavor. Stir. Now we have a perfect bronzing. It is not too brown nor too light. The part with the skin, let it sear just a little bit, otherwise the skin will shrink. Then you're going to stir it right away, and we're going to go with the seasoning part. See the color we have here is it's less harsh. And we're going to lower the heat and we're going to start with the part of the starter. Very often in typical Italian cuisine, to make sauces in general, we use odors that can be garlic odors. We're going to use some parsley stems that we're going to put inside. Put them whole, otherwise they burn. Then we're going to put some rosemary. I'm not mincing it because maybe at the end of the cooking I want to remove it. Then olives. I'm using 2 types of olives, black olives and some Diciassettesimo olives, which help with the aromatic fruity part of the product. Always on low heat. Stirring a little bit. And now we're going to go with the last ingredient. So, chili. Always remember that chili must be put, we're going to show it, must be put without the seeds, like this, because the seeds are rich in capsaicin, which is the substance that gives them the spicy, hot effect, burning effect. And then we're going to put some minced garlic without the internal soul part, because it's more digestible. You can choose whether to put it crushed, whole, with the skin on, without the skin on. We prefer to mince it. When you added chili and garlic, just let it stay a little bit because otherwise they can burn. Bathe first with vinegar. So the alcoholic elements that are cold in a warm casserole. If the flame is too high, it can burn everything that's present in the casserole, so always do it on low heat or just move the pan. A little bit of white wine vinegar and some white wine. So vinegar and wines don't give acidity. Through the cooking phase, all of the alcoholic part and acid part, or agrume part, if we're using lemon or orange, will go away and we're going to be left with the sugary sweet part. So we use white wine, red wine, vinegars to give aroma, to give perfume to the product, not to give acidity. So we put the white wine part and some vinegar, stirring every now and then. We're going to deglaze now, so all of the dry part, brownish part that remained attached to the bottom that we obtained through the searing, we recovered it by submerging it in vinegar and wine. So we're collecting all of the caramelized sugars on the bottom of the casserole. Let's wait for the alcohol to evaporate. We can perceive it even by moving the hand and getting closer like this to perceive if there still is an alcohol scent. It must be removed because when we're going to add our kitchen fond, our white fond, we're going to feel some strong alcoholic or vinegar presence. After which, we're going to cover, not completely, just 2/3 of the way, with our common white chicken fond. Let's stir slightly. I always remind you to the salt. We're going to add salt at around 3/4 of the way of the cooking, because if we put salt at the beginning, it might stimulate the liquids to come out, so we prefer to put it at the end. From here, use the lid. We're going to stew our cacciatora chicken. Remember that from here it will take around half an hour for the type of cuts we have, so the volume of the meat. And every 10 minutes just check it, stir the meat, and at the end of the cooking we're going to remove the pieces of meat. We will reduce our cooking fun. Maybe you can sift it to remove eventual odors or things you don't want to perceive, or we can just blend everything and sift it, because it's important that everything you insert inside remains in the sauce. So from here we're going to wait around half an hour, cooking with the lid on, and we'll see the final result. And this is the result of the cacciatora chicken. Before we plate it up, which will be, so the presentation will be very basic because it's a traditional dish. Let's say a couple important things. The first, clearly, if it's a dish that you're inserting in your menu, it's a dish that necessarily needs to be prepared in advance. One advice, never cook it to the definitive cooking point. Stop at 80% of the way, because when the service, when the order arrives, you will necessarily have to heat it up. We can heat it up directly in the casserole with one part of the kitchen fond and maybe some common chicken white fond. If we stop at 80%, we can finish the cooking and give our client a product that's perfect, especially talking about the flavor and consistency. So you're stopping at 80%. Once finished, blast chill, positive at +3 degrees within 90 seconds, so that we block the cooking. And I advise you to divide it into portions already. If according to you the right portion is 150 to 100 degrees based on the type of restaurant where you work and the type of service you offer. So 3 to 4 pieces of broken chicken with some seasoning in a vacuum bag. Vacuum it after blast chilling it positive. Always label it. And when the client orders it, you're going to take it out of your fridge. You can regenerate it in the microwave. You can directly with a bag. You can regenerate it in the pasta cooker, or you just opening the bag, put it in a casserole with its fond and some common white fond, and remember to heat it up with the lid on, because to get to the core, you'll have a cold product. To get to the right temperature, we need not to have a strong evaporation of the water. So by putting the lid, we can create a chamber where the overheating is much more effective. Now we're going to plate it up. As I was telling you, put maybe a couple thighs. We're going to put 4 pieces because through the cooking, our chicken has shrunk and the chicken was not very big anyways. So we're going to put our thighs. Of course, choose the type of dish that you prefer. Upper thigh. Trying to work vertically. And then the wing part. Once your dish has the right stability, remember one important thing. When you're assembling such an articulated dish, it is a little bit easier for the operators who move the dish. If your dish is not stable, how can you imagine that the waiter will not rotate your dish? Because he's bringing 3 or 4 dishes at a time. So when you choose a plating, a presentation, it must be a stable structure. From here, we're going to add part of our sauce. We reduced it nicely. As you can see, it has a quite thick density. We're going to put a few olives. Showing you the creaminess of the sauce. So we'll let it reduce. And then you can choose whether to filter everything or leave the pieces of olive or elements that make the dish up to enrich it. Always check if the plate needs some cleaning. This is extremely important. And use a cloth that you only use for that operation, and your cacciatora chicken is ready.